unleashing female power.
Being a disruptor.
I'm always constantly telling the truth.
I love
Art. That's all her life.
She's alive and female.
Being a woman, what it meant.
Prove him wrong.
Girls run the world.
We're rocking the place.
Welcome to the Art Pod. I'm your host, Carolina, and I'll be your guide through this Pandora's box. Strap yourselves in for a journey through the art world where we bring you candid conversations, untold stories, uncover industry secrets, and celebrate the women who are shaping its future. Because in the Art Pod, the spotlight is always on the girls. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Art Pod. My guest today is Maëlle Ebelle.
Hi.
Welcome. And before we start, I just wanted to say that the Art Pod is a proud partner with Arttable, the foremost professional organization dedicated to advancing the leadership of women and non-binary professionals in the visual arts. I personally love being an Arttable member because of all the different things that they offer you, from events to mixers to job opportunities. You get to meet a lot of other professional women in the field and share stories and build your network. And you can learn more about becoming a member, the events and initiatives on their website at arttable.org. So check it out. And now back to you, Maëlle. So you joined the Ceysson Bénétière team in May 2012 after your studies in France and South Africa. Having cut her teeth in Switzerland at Ceysson Bénétière in Geneva, then located nearby the MAMCO Genève. She left for Luxembourg in 2014 to continue the development of the gallery. In 2017, she became the director of the gallery's Wandhof space in Luxembourg, which opened in 2015. From May 2023, she took over the direction of Ceysson Bénétière in New York, located at 956 Madison Avenue, in order to develop the gallery's influence across the Atlantic. So, you are currently the gallery director at the New York location, and you started in 2023. But before that, you were also with the gallery in Geneva in 2012 as a gallery assistant and intern, then moved to Luxembourg in 2014 as a gallery assistant and manager, then became a director there from 2017 to 2023 before heading to the States. Super interesting because all my guests usually have like a million jobs, but it's really nice to get somebody who's really had this sort of trajectory at a gallery. So maybe let's begin talking a little bit about the gallery and how you began to work there and kind of your journey through the roles and locations.
Yeah. So like back in 2012, I was still a student in Montpellier in south of France, working on like being a student in cultural project management, basically. And I've met actually one of the CEO of Ceysson Bénétière. Back in the day, it was called Bernard Ceysson Gallery. And we had a conversation, and I asked him basically like, are you looking for interns? Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, we are looking for someone actually in Geneva. I've been, I'm French. I've been doing some trip to Switzerland, but I never like really lived there. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting also to just like go to another country and just like to see also how it works. Even if Geneva is a French speaking city, like, very included into like the idea of the EU, even if Switzerland is not like a part of the EU properly, but mm-hmm. And I started there as an intern basically for like 3 months at the end of my studies in Montpellier. And at the end of that internship, they offered me a job. So I started like as a gallery assistant. And then I grew up with the company, mm-hmm. which was really exciting because like I was able to just like see every aspect of it. Like, being an intern at the beginning with small responsibilities, and then like growing with the company, with the gallery, like being involved in very exciting projects, being a part of important art fairs and more important art fairs all along. So that was like very, very interesting to see that and to be able to develop also something very nice with all the artists we have been working with. So that was really, really interesting to just like grow with the company. So yeah, I stick with them for like the past 13 years. Mm-hmm. And this is still like very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because like I mentioned, few of my guests have such an experience that, they love the job so much that they just go from start to that progression. What kind of key skills did you develop in those early roles that you that essentially prepared you for the directorship now?
Oh, being multitask.
Okay.
Like really, like being like, you know, in every single aspect of like, you know, the day-to-day basics to running a gallery, and then like being like more involved with our high profile clientele, and then moving forward to being involved in logistics. I mean, like shippings, like being in touch with the insurance company, being like, you know, more and more involved with all these logistical aspect, and being able also to train people after that to endorse those roles and make it efficient for the company. So that was very, very interesting for that.
Yeah. And you also spearheaded the Luxembourg's gallery's development. How did you tailor their programming?
Well, so for the Luxembourg, I was not like really involved like properly in the program, because I was working with Bernard Ceysson, who has been the director of the Centre Pompidou for a while, and mostly director of the Museum of Contemporary Art in Saint-Étienne, which is the 5th biggest collection of modern contemporary art in France. So we had our artistic advisor for the company, for the gallery. So that was really interesting to work like so closely to him, because he had this beautiful vision for like, you know, the display of an exhibition, like the contact also with the artists. And that was very, I would say, enlightening, you know, in the way that like, this is how it works. This is how like we build a relationship from the start with an artist, and we are trying to grow with this artist. So that was like very, you know, that was like a permanent teaching about like all those steps and how we can just like build a vision from there. So that was very, very interesting for that.
Yeah, I can imagine having such hands-on experience with the director.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was like one of the best moments that I had when I arrived in Luxembourg in 2014. He was there, and we were like literally our desk were like, I was sitting in front of him, and he was like, and we were having this conversation all along. And he's also like someone so present in the art history. So like he had like he has all these amazing anecdotes with all those artists, like we can see in museums. And that was just like, I was kind of a baby still, you know, I was 25. So that was just like, what? This is amazing. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like Frank Stella, you met him, you had a conversation with him in his studio. This is amazing. Like, you know, having that being a part, like having that kind of small, intimate details, kind of. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you learn art history in school, right? You learn about these artists, and then you meet people who have actually met them. Some of them, you know, started their careers, and they have these like little stories, and you get to know the artist so much more intimately through those smaller stories than you do in the textbooks.
Exactly. And I think that also helps you, you know, like, because in the gallery, you also have this mission to be in this role of being like the mediation person, you know, like you have to inform people, and having those small elements sometimes just like, you know, people can just identify or rely on that. So it could help also on the sale. It could help on, you know, building a part of not a relationship, but like some links with the artist and the potential client. Yeah. So that's really, really helpful, actually.
Of course, 100%. How big was the team when you started first at the gallery?
Very small. Okay. Very small. So it was François Ceysson, Loïc Bénétière, Bernard Ceysson as like an artistic advisor, Loïc Garrier, our director in Paris, and me.
Wow.
So that was just us. And we had a small team also in Saint-Étienne. And yeah, that was it. That was it. So we had to be aware of every aspect of the day-to-day galleries running. And yeah, that was beautiful to just like being able to work like that. Like, you know, trying to earn the trust of your boss, first of all, like proving also yourself that you can do it, and trying to grow with that. So that was really beautiful. And we are still in this kind of energy, you know, like the gallery is expanding, and we are trying to just like make it better and better every single day. So that is also the spirit.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And the fact that, you've been growing with the gallery as it's been growing is also quite the experience. So you became the director of the New York space in 2023 after leading the Luxembourg gallery.
Yeah.
What inspired this move, and how has the transition been from Europe to the States?
Interesting question. So I've been a big fan of New York for like ever. It's like the lungs of the outward. I mean, like everything is happening here. I remember my first visit. I was still in high school, something like that. I was at university already. But anyway, when I arrived here, I was like, okay, at some point, I want to be a part of that city for like a while. We started to have this conversation. I joined the gallery in 2012. So like François Ceysson and Ceysson Bénétière were having this conversation of, that's not something that we are not like against. So maybe, that project can take place in New York. And I was like, well, if you're doing anything in New York, I want to be part of it. Like I really, really want to be part of it. So I moved in 2023. And that was really, really like completely different from what I've had experienced also in Europe. Coming from Luxembourg is a very small country between Belgium, Germany, and France. But people are very, very curious. So like, I remember my first day in Luxembourg, and everybody was so welcoming. I was coming from Switzerland, which is, a little bit more cold, I would say. But like in Luxembourg, people were just like welcoming me like very warmly. So that was a beautiful experience. And people are very curious also. So when I arrived in Luxembourg, I was like, this is great. Like, I like the energy here, but it's very quiet at the same time. Like, small country, not that many galleries all around. So people are going to Brussels to see exhibitions, like to Munich, to Cologne. So like everything is very like, you have to travel. You have to be like, if you are interested, you have to travel. When I arrived here, and from the past also, because from 2014 more or less to 2023, I was doing like a lot of back and forth between Europe and the States in order to just like keeping myself informed of what was going on here. But also because we started the business in 2017 in New York. So like they asked me to do a lot of back and forth and trying to also being like an help for the team here to settle and trying to make it work. So when I arrived completely like fully installed here in 2023, I was like, whoa, this is like, I knew, the entire environment being like packed with galleries and program and everything. I mean, if you want to do openings from Monday to Sunday in New York, it's absolutely possible every single week, right? Yeah. So, like when I arrived, I was like, okay, this is like, when you're here just like for 5 days or something, you feel the pulse, but you're not like in the pulse. So when I arrived here, I was like, okay, so everything is going fast. You have to be on site. You have to be outside. You have to attend to openings. You have to go to dinners as much as possible, meeting people, networking. So yeah, that was like very different from a small country where everybody knows each other, basically, to a place where you have to create your own space. So that was really interesting for that. And I'm still working on it. It's been like less than 2 years, like mostly like almost 2 years, but I'm still working on that because it's massive. Oh yeah. The outward here is massive. And really, really interesting, challenging also because of all that proposal all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like the art world is big, but it's small at the same time. Like once you know all the kind of people who are in the industry, it's like you always see them at every like opening and stuff like that. But when you're first arriving here from a European country or from a smaller country, it can seem very overwhelming because everything is so concentrated here in this one space. You have tons of galleries. Shows are always competing in the press for attention, and I don't think there's even a time where a human being could see all the shows up at the same time. Impossible. Yeah.
Impossible to be true. Like this is it's just like you have to figure out how you want to manage that.
Yeah.
Like you have to be very organized also for this part of your job. So it's a pleasure for me. Like, like I love going out and being at openings and stuff like that. But you have to be organized. You have to choose also, making choice. I think that's the most complicated thing here in New York, because you have to make choice for like wherever you want to go, what show you want to attend, who do you want to meet, because you're like, okay, maybe that place I will see that person.
Yep.
So you have to, it's a chess game kind of. So it's like, it's interesting also.
Yeah, I love how you called it a chess game, because essentially it is what it is, because there's no way you could do everything all at once.
Impossible.
Yeah. Ceysson Bénétière has a strong European presence. Obviously, we just spoke about it. How does the New York Galleries program differ from its European counterparts, and what's your vision for expanding its transatlantic influence?
Well, that's a really good question. So our European galleries are mainly focused on, French contemporary art, but we're also working with Americans. We have been developing also our roster, like artist roster, for the past years, with American artists that we came to visit when we didn't have the location here. So we have been working on that, but mostly our program is dedicated to Super Surface, which is like a group from the late 60s of French artists, mainly based in south of France, and they were questioning paintings, like how can you process and progress into paintings and make it different. At the time when in the 60s, like all the attention was placed on the US, and France was like, you're just like putting it aside. So they tried to make something different. So this is our main artist roster. But from there, we also established some links with new artists based in France, based in the US. And we're working with that kind of program in our European locations. In the US, since I arrived in 2023, we have been trying with my associate director, Francesca Pissarelli, we have been trying to make a slight change in a way that from 2017 to mid 2023, the program was like very similar to what we have been doing in Europe. But unfortunately, I would say that, European artists are not the easiest to place in American collections.
For sure.
The attention for European artists is not like as, like as big as it is in Europe. So we have been trying to make the gallery a space where American young artists could develop and present their work in our space. So that's why our program is divided in two sets, let's say. American for like the first part of the year, January to, let's say, the end, mid October. And from mid-October to January or mid-February, Europeans.
Okay.
Why that? Because I felt it like right away when I arrived here. I have worked on this curated show with Kimia Fedosky-Klein. She was the first group show curated at the gallery when I was there, because we have been doing that before. But she was the one, like I've been in touch with her because she was included in the show in Luxembourg, and I've been following her work, and I love her energy, and I think she's an amazing artist. And I was like, Kimia, do you want to curate a show at the gallery in New York? But the only obligation you have is you have to include New York-based artists only. That's the only thing that I'm asking you. You can do whatever you want. We can talk about that, but like the only thing that I'm asking is New York-based artists. And it worked, because the attention of the show was put in the New York scene. And I felt for that show that that's what the people wanted. So from there, we try to work on that kind of program. And we have been presenting Adam Heimbach. We have been presented Ted Gall, Alina Blumis, some artists like Rachel Taravecchia. This new roster of artists, this fresh vision of contemporary art. And that's what I want to develop here. So it's still the idea, to be in that direction, to go in that direction. And I really hope it's going to work.
Yeah, no, I really love your programming. I also wanted to ask you, obviously, once you're in New York, you realize there's a concentration of galleries in Chelsea. There's a concentration of galleries on the Upper East Side. And there's obviously another concentration, but these are more like emerging galleries in like the Lower East Side, Chinatown. Now, a lot of galleries are also moving to Tribeca. But when you were first opening the gallery in New York, why did you decide on the Upper East Side rather than Chelsea?
Well, so that was not my decision.
Okay.
We, I think what François Ceysson, because he's the one who was really driven by the idea of opening a space in New York. He wanted to have like a prestigious also address, being on Madison Avenue in the Upper East Side, very close to the Met, to the Guggenheim, so close to Gagosian. I mean, like, we are neighbors. It was what he really wanted, with probably the perspective to open something else, in the future, in the near future. We don't know. Like, we're still like, in the idea of this. We'll see. Nothing has been said. Well, but I think that was the idea, to be in this very prestigious place. And also back in the day when he started to work on the project to open the gallery in New York, it was like I remember like the Lower East Side was something that was just like coming out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And now the Lower East Side is like kind of empty. I mean, like there's still galleries, but it's not like that
like
attractive
it was at the start. Yeah.
Exactly. So things are moving all around. Bortolami was the first one in Tribeca. And now, I mean, Tribeca is full of galleries. Yeah. So like you see, like we never know. Maybe at some point the Upper East Side will be like the next hotspot. Yeah. We don't know. But for now, indeed, we are in the Upper East Side, on the second floor. It's interesting, like the people coming in the gallery. Some of them are coming from the South Manhattan, and it's really interesting to see how they just like. They're like, oh, you're bringing that kind of proposal here in the Upper East Side. This is really nice. And we have some people from the Upper East Side. They're like, we never see that before. So your proposal are really, really interesting for that, because we have to go downtown to see that kind of proposals. But because you're bringing it to us, why should we?
Exactly. And I mean, you also have that advantage of, like you mentioned, being on Museum Mile, where you have all the major museums like on that one strip.
Exactly. And that's an asset.
Yes,
that's
100%.
An asset. Yeah.
Because then you can just have even like people who are going to see those shows stop by the gallery.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, you also oversee teams in Luxembourg and New York. How do you foster collaboration across time zones and cultural contexts?
Very good questions. So I'm like, in the best version of the word, I would say, like, I'm working in the morning for the Europeans and in the afternoon for the US.
Yep.
There is no, the best word possible is not like that doesn't exist. So I'm trying to do that, trying to catch up with all this interaction. So I have the team in Luxembourg, for example. I have them on the phone, like particularly in the morning, because it's like easier for me to catch up with them and trying to just like be in the right set for them. And yeah, I'm shifting, like I'm trying to just like do both. It's not always very easy, but we are trying to have like, conversation at least twice a week. But like, it could be like every single day. If there is any kind of emergency or something like that. And the good thing is I think it's because I'm 6 hours later than them. If they are in a rush, I can just like jump in.
Yeah.
and finish what they are working on. So that's more or less the idea. Yeah.
Do you go a lot back and forth?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot. I mean, emails are fine, but
Mhm.
calls sometimes you can just like feel the pace and feel the tension or feel what is right or wrong at the
Mhm.
time. So yeah, always.
How
on the phone.
often would you say you go back to the European locations to visit?
My first year, I was back every 6 months.
Okay.
6 weeks. Sorry,
Oh.
not 6 months, 6 weeks. And now every 4 months, 5 months, I try to be more focused also on New York, on the New York side. This is
Mhm.
why I'm here. So that's the
Okay.
idea. Yeah.
Do you ever get homesick?
Not really.
No?
No. My family is in France. So when I was in Luxembourg, I was
Mhm.
already like,
Yeah,
you know,
you were
6
away.
hours away
Yeah.
from them. So they're used to that. I'm used to that. Sometimes a little bit. Yes, of course, because my friends and family are away and it's like, you know, the time difference is also something. But
Yeah.
it's fine. It's still fine.
Yeah,
I love New York, so.
Yeah, I mean, New York will definitely keep you busy, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't even like have time to be homesick.
Absolutely.
What's been the biggest challenge of directing a gallery in New York compared to Europe?
Oh, I mean being in that city with so many galleries, like
Mhm.
the competition
Yeah.
between. I don't like the word competition, but that's a fact.
It is. It's true.
So it's complicated to just like not saying it that way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's it. That's it. Because like, you know, in France or in Luxembourg, we have been doing what we have been doing for like, the gallery was born in 2006.
Mhm.
So we have been doing what we have been doing for years.
Right.
Here we are trying to create something. So in this phase of creation and post-pandemic situation, not the easiest. It's not easy. But it's still very interesting because, you know, you meet so many amazing people, amazing artists, and you just want to go with them. Like you want to support them. You want to be an asset for them. I always say that I don't work for artists. I work with the artists, because I really do think it's a collaboration. We are bringing both of us something, and we are creating an exhibition together. So that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very accurate. And now speaking about working with artists, what's your favorite part about working with artists?
Oh, I love being in contact with them.
Okay.
I mean, they have such a beautiful energy. And I feel like, you know, when you do a studio visit and when you get to know them a little bit more, you get to know a little bit, just like to get some small details that just like brings you a new idea or a new vision of the person you have in front of you, and engage a conversation regarding arts or like, I don't know, cinema or literature or politics. Very enlightening. And that's what I like, the conversation that we can have, and the idea that what we have also for a show. Like when we're working on the show, like having conversation and just like trying to just like place everything all together and being able to just like materialize that is beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite thing.
I always say the same thing when people ask me what's my favorite part of my job is studio visits with artists. You're also like in such an intimate space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can see sometimes some small details, like, I don't know, an object placed in the table. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that coming from you. Like you have this, I don't know, vase, or like, oh, you love flowers? I never pictured that from you. Or like, you know, small details. Smoking a cigarette? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Like
you learned something.
I never figured out. Like that's really interesting.
Yeah. Also, as a female director in a male-dominated industry, have you faced any specific challenges, and how do you think galleries can foster gender equity?
Yes, I've faced some very tricky situation. I think also because I'm a colored woman. For a very long time, even when I was already a director or a gallery manager, people were thinking that I was the assistant.
Yeah.
even after 10 years, or, it's frustrating because like you busted your ass off
Oh, yeah.
to be there. You worked, you gave so much, and you're still giving a lot. And having that kind of reaction because you're a woman, it's really frustrating. I remember when I started with the gallery, attending to art fairs, for example, and I remember being like one of the only one being like, a colored woman, as an exhibitor, attending to an art fair. That was really disturbing at the time. But I'm speaking on the European side. Now things have changed a lot, thankfully. Like, I mean, thank God. But it's still very challenging to make your mark as a woman. You have to work twice, 3 times harder than anybody else. And maybe also because of the color of my skin, I have to work like 5 times harder to make understand people that I'm worth it of my position and I worked for this. And that's really important. I've been lucky enough to work for Ceysson Bénétière for 13 years now, and they trusted me from day one. And it's not something that you can just let go like this. You know what I mean? Like it's really important. They have been like very inclusive also in decision making, in, like, what do you think about this? Like, do you like this artist? Like, a conversation. So yeah, I've been like very, very lucky, I think. And what gallery can do for being more inclusive and that, like, just maybe being more and more like open-minded. We see some beautiful developments in galleries. There are more and more people coming from different horizons, and that's the beauty of it. Like we can talk, for example, about 52 Walker. I mean, beautiful project, beautiful space. The director Ebony Haynes is amazing. I'm a big fan. I've been lucky enough to know her when she was at Martha's Gallery back in the day. And it's just like this beautiful I think you create your own beautiful bubble, and that's important to just like being supported in that way. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it's also very hard. That's why I find your situation so unique. It's hard to find a place where you feel supported and included and your opinions matter, especially as a woman, and I'm sure as a woman of color, in a space where you work. So I'm glad that you actually found that and you have that at the gallery.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. Yeah.
Also, we spoke a little bit and we touched a little bit about the post-pandemic, role of the gallery. How do you see the role of the physical gallery evolving post-pandemic, especially with digital platforms?
Well, the gallery hasn't been like that good at it.
Okay, fair.
I have to say, like I remember like all those art fairs, like suggesting like the OVR.
Oh yes.
All this. We have been doing it, but we never really like built like an entire website where you can have like those viewing rooms and digital visit, that kind of things. So we never have been like that involved in this. We have been on the phone all the time. Like trying to, keep contact with our collectors. Like I remember during the pandemic, I was like every single day I was like calling at least 15 collectors, just like making sure like, are you okay? Just not like even in the purpose of like, doing a sales, but just like, I remember you.
That connection.
I remember you. Like, it's important. We have a beautiful connection. Okay, through the gallery, but like we have a beautiful connection. Like your collectors, we had dinner together multiple times. How you doing? Like, those times are very hard. So how you doing? So we were more like effective on this. And I think that's also the strength of our gallery. Like, sending an email in those sensitive time is very impersonal, kind of. But when you are calling someone, when you're texting someone, it's more like, I have your phone number. I remember you exist. We were doing the same with our families, right? And friends. Like, are you okay? You sure? Like, it's fine. We were doing exactly the same. And after the pandemic, when everything was just like back to the normal,
quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly. That was really interesting also to see, like, that was so nice to hear from you during this very tough time. So yeah, that would be my answer. Unfortunately, yes, we were not like very good at it, like, you know, the OVR things. We're most like drive through art fairs to do it, but the gallery itself never had an OVR section in our website.
But I mean, even speaking to like personal relationships like you're fostering, you know, the digital can also place a wedge almost between you and another human being, because like you're just viewing everything digitally rather than that having that personal connection of the phone call or the text message. So, you know, and especially in this industry, personal relationships are super key, especially with collectors when you're running a gallery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But talking a little bit also about art fairs, how did you leverage art fairs to grow the gallery's network?
Now, like today, I think art fairs are getting more and more complicated. Today, we can see that. Like I heard, like we are out of Art Basel Hong Kong. You know, it was like so. I think small art fairs can get way more attention because of the budget also. But because I think also like people, like galleries cannot, like, you know, invest that amount of money in sensitive time like this. It's been like 2.5 years, 3 years that the market is complicated.
Yes.
So right now I feel like, of course, big art fairs like Art Basel Paris, Art Basel, are like the top of you know, art fairs in the world. But at the same time, we can see that the market is not following right now. So it's interesting to see how maybe like a shift can operate between those two platforms, like the big one and the small one. And we can see also, I'm speaking for NADA, for example, that major gallery that has done big art fairs are coming back to smaller art fairs to be able to just like make it work. Yeah. Like still being in touch with that contact in New York, in LA, in Hong Kong, in Paris, whatever. But the budget they are just like allocated to that kind of events are not like what it was in the past, in 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago, things were fine. Now the art world is like, it's slow. It's really slow. So we have to adjust to that. So I think it's a very good platform. Like art fairs are a very good platform to meet people. We meet people all the time. It's great also to introduce your program to a new clientele, or the clientele that you already have. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting also to see that shift operating right now. So yeah.
You touched a little bit on NADA.
Yes.
I love that fair. But in 2024, you were a jury member for NADA. What qualities did you prioritize when you were evaluating artists or galleries for the fair?
So in my point of view, you know, like the proposal has to be coherent. I don't know if that word is, like, yeah. And you know, like for an art fair application, you have some sketches, and you can see what the proposal would look like, you know. I am not like a big fan of like super packed booth. You know, like I think like an art fair is already like, you know, a lot. So I like when you have like a very clean presentation. I, of course, evaluate the artist, the gallery, but like sometimes I feel like, you know, a very young gallery can have like a wonderful program, but nobody knows the gallery.
Yeah.
So I'm not like judging the name of the gallery first. I'm more attentive to the proposal. So that's the way I'm working. It takes like a lot of time, to evaluate like every single application, just like to make sure that, am I right? Like, am I not like this very bossy person being like, oh, I don't like this one. No, it's not like, it's more like I want to, because I'm a part of this beautiful project that NADA is, I want to be someone who just like plays also my knowledge and my skills to something a little bit bigger and trying to make it like grow and do something beautiful at the end. Like, like walking in the aisle and being like, wow, this looks good. This looks good. And being proud of it. Like being like, yes, I've been part of that team and we made it. We made it work and it's beautiful. So yeah, I'm trying to see like, of course, like every single application by itself, but at the same time, I'm trying to picture the bigger event. And yeah, that's what I like, because like, you have like all those gallerists being involved in the same room, having conversation all the time and debating and being like, I don't agree with you. Like, I think that artist is really good. Oh, that gallery, yeah, maybe they can just like readjust their application. Oh, or like being like, okay, so that gallery, it's a yes. We love the program. We love the thing, because you are, of course, like, judging an application, but you're also judging the program of the gallery. You're not like looking at something like, this, you're looking at like a bigger picture.
Right.
So that's also very interesting, because you can see if the gallery is putting effort in there, if like they want to explore new path with new artists or a new proposal, like what kind of art fairs they've been doing in the past years. Like, oh, okay, they're growing up. So like that could be interesting also to just like make them create a space for them in the art fair. So that is like all the reflection and like all the thinking you have to have when you are, I think, part of a jury like this.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to approach it and the criteria.
Yeah.
But now let's pivot and talk a little bit about everything that's coming up for you at the gallery. So let's talk about the upcoming show, Bao Vuong's The Waves Breathing.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the show and how it was working with artists to bring it to life?
So we have been introduced to Bao Vuong works through a friend who has a gallery, and we saw the work during an art fair. We're talking about art fairs.
Yeah.
So that was like the first introduction. And François Ceysson was really driven by like the idea of like doing something with Bao for here in New York. And Bao was visiting New York last summer or like in September, I don't remember exactly. And he came to the gallery and we started to have a conversation about the show. And so we're thinking about like, trying to deal with the space. We also started the conversation. So for me, it was getting me like a better vision of what he was trying to do, what he wanted to create with the space. So we tried to have like a conversation about that. And we ended up with like a proposition. Like I was like, maybe we should just like do something like very clear and very, not small, but accurate, maybe, like picking like 6 pieces. That's it for a show. We will have like a big painting and 5 other paintings, and that's it. Something I was like pointing the fact that also, New York's apartments are not that big.
Yes.
So having like massive paintings, it's not maybe like the smartest move, I love having like big paintings. It's beautiful. It's very like immersive and everything, but
I wish I had the space, but yeah, you're right. New York apartments are limited.
Exactly. So like, there's always like something, a door or like a closet or something. So like, I think like a big piece, like it's for someone who just like build a house and it's just like, oh, I get rid of everything and I just want to try something else, like I want to buy something else. So I was saying to Bao, like, would you mind to work on smaller pieces? And he was like, no, I think that could work. And I was like, okay, so let's start with that idea of having like 1 big painting and 5 smaller works. So that's how we articulated this idea of the exhibition that we're gonna open on 10th of April.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So Bao Vuong's paintings are described kind of as nocturnal landscapes where light emerges from darkness with an almost spiritual quality. Can you speak about his technical process, so the materials, layering, brushwork, and how that mirrors the exhibition's themes of fragility and resilience?
Yeah. So Bao is based in Brussels. He has a studio in Brussels. For the story, Bao is coming from Vietnam, and he was one of the boat people. So he and his family fled from Vietnam by the sea, and they were on those very like small boats, like being like very threatened by the elements and everything. So he's painting the sea at dawn, or at the sunset, or like at this very threatening moment when like a storm is coming, and he's using that very thick paint on top of the canvas, and he's just like trying to make those waves being like very realistic, and he plays with the light. So like you can see, you can almost feel like the sea is moving, but in the background you can see like some lights coming from the sun through the clouds, trying to just like enlight some part of the painting. And he's using like some ashes, like incense ashes. He's using like some paintbrush. There is something like very heavy with his painting. But I mean, the topic of his painting is already very heavy.
Yeah.
It's this testimony also about like what he remembers about that, and the beauty and the threatening way that both of those elements, that the sea could be a beautiful landscape, but also something like that can just like threat your own life. So everything is black, white, and gray. And it's really, very deep and very beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's how nature is, very beautiful, but very deadly.
Exactly.
But I mean, talking a little bit more about Vuong's kind of background and inspiration for these works, his work bridges obviously these deeply personal histories with universal emotions. So the show frames his escape from Vietnam, as you've mentioned, as part of a broader tapestry of these silent crossings. Obviously, in an era of global displacement, how do you see this exhibition contributing to conversations about migration?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's like, something that we were thinking of when we booked the exhibition. I think we were more focused on the skills of Bao being able to just like, pursue and just like presenting that kind of work. But at the same time, of course, it's a topic that we have to talk about, like particularly nowadays. And it's really interesting because he's based in Brussels, and Belgium has been also like a big place for like, immigration and everything. Yes. So like France, Italy, Belgium, all those very important spots where people can just like end it up after a very long and dangerous trip to come back to Europe at least. And yeah, I think that could create that feeling of being like a witness and just like being able to identify also the threat of this. But the way he's painting this, it's also to witness the beauty of maybe the migration, the fact that like you're taking so much risk to go somewhere where like beauty is expecting you, like something better is coming to you. I think that's also like the main goal of those paintings. And it's really interesting to see how he just like managed to that. So the gallery, like the gallery in the spirit is more, I think, about like the technicity and the fact that we are creating a space again to have that kind of conversation between the artist and the audience, like, being like in this contemplative state also when you're looking at those paintings. But at the same time, it just reminds you that something like that can be also like the every single day of someone who's trying to just like come and have a better life, escaping from like the misery, the threat, the war, everything. So yeah,
that's a great way to put it. Can we also talk a little bit about the upcoming show on May 22nd in your New York location, which is Dennis Osadebe's Forcing Connections?
Yes.
What can you tell us?
I'm really happy that we have this conversation about Dennis because so I have met Dennis through Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So
Instagram does work.
Yes, Instagram does work. Well, I mean, the first time he didn't answer me.
Okay.
But I was like, I really want to work with you. So like, I'm going to try. And so we met through Instagram. I've been like following his work for like years. He's a self-taught artist based in Lagos, Nigeria. And I was really like curious about that. And I remember seeing a show at Cunning Gallery where one piece was presented. I was like, oh, this is really good. Like this is really what I try to go with also like the gallery program, because even if I'm trying to include American artists, like I'm trying also to go a little bit like, you know, further and also because of my my family's roots and everything, I'm attached to the African continent. So I've been working with a South African artist, now with Dennis, a Nigerian artist. He's so based in Lagos. He's living in this very like frenetic city, like nothing to like. You cannot compare, you know, New York and Lagos, but at the same time, kind of.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's the disorder in order, kind of. It's a little bit weird, but there is this very like big energy in that city. And we actually had a virtual studio visit yesterday with the gallery. And so he's working on this duality between tradition and technology. And because in Africa, the traditions are very, very, very important. And even if you don't want it, you have to live with that. Like, you know, you have to respect the oldest. You have to place yourself in a certain way. You have to have that kind of, you know, the way you're talking to people. That's something like very important. And that could be very also disturbing. I mean, I have my roots in Cameroon through my father, but I've been raised in Europe. So, you know, like my entire life, I've spent my entire life in Europe, in France. So I was born in France. I grew up in France. I studied in France. So like, you know, when I'm in Cameroon, sometimes like, ooh, okay, this is not what I'm used to.
Right.
So he's trying to incorporate the idea of tradition and with this idea of technology. If you are going to Asia, to Africa, South America, I guess, I've never been to South America, but like, you know, your phone, your tablet, your computer are everything. You know, like you're just like rely on that. Like I can communicate with my cousin with da 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 da. So like you have to have your phone next to you. It's really important. You can just like recharge it like everywhere. So the idea is to do those beautiful paintings where like the figure on the painting is really, really simple. So you will have like some woman, but like, you know, just like the general shape of it, not detailed, nothing. Wearing a mask, because in the Nigerian tradition, like the mask is really important. And, you know, you have different ethnicities in the country. So like you use different masks for different occasions. And those masks are like the essence of also the community. And so those characters on the paintings are wearing those masks with those flashy colors all around, having that image like kind of flat, like kind of pushed like this. And he's doing this beautiful work where he's trying to incorporate, as I said, tradition and technology. So like you have someone wearing like something like very traditional, wearing this mask and having like all those wires that just like interfere kind of with the idea of the tradition, but elevate also the idea of the tradition. Like it's not because we are stick with the tradition that we have to just like be there. We can just like grow up with that, and we can just like take that to another level. And that's what I liked about his work. And I think he's an amazing artist, and he has been like traveling a lot. He has been presenting his work in Europe, in the UK, in Asia during art fairs, and also in the US actually already. He already had exhibitions here. And he has this really beautiful way to just like communicate and share his vision. And he's referring to beautiful artists like Maëlle Ebelle, to Henri Matisse, to Marcel Duchamp. So it's like he gets the entire picture of the contemporary art, you know, and the contemporary world. And he's trying to just like put also his part of his vision in his paintings. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. We will, by the way, presenting him also at NADA New York in May.
Oh, nice.
So as a solo show. So prior the exhibition at the gallery.
Great.
Yeah.
I was so excited before we were doing this interview. I was looking at the upcoming programming at the gallery, and I've only been exposed to his work like a couple of times. So I was really excited that you guys are doing a show with him. So I'm super excited.
Yes, it's an amazing opportunity, and again, we talked about the show because he came also in New York in last May, so like a year ago. And he came with a proposal like super organized, like, you know, that kind of audience that you really like. Yeah. Like just like being like, doo-doo. So this is the way I'm thinking about the show, like, you know, forcing connection. So like this is the title for the exhibition. So it's referring to this and that. Like maybe that would be nice to have that kind of writer for the show. Like maybe that would be nice to do something like this. Maybe we can just like, maybe I can work on a sculpture. Maybe we can. I was like, yes. Yes, this is amazing. Like a year in advance, it's a luxury first. We are not like always working like this.
No, I trust me. I work for a gallery. So yeah,
you know, so like a year from in advance, he was like, I have this entire, like, this is the proposal. This is what I'm trying to achieve for the show. Are you okay with that? I was like, yes, this is amazing. So beautiful. And I'm really happy. And he will come over and we'll try to have probably a conversation at the gallery. I'm trying to work on that also during his stay. So it's really, really, really encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah. No, super excited about that. And if you guys have a talk, I'm going to be there.
Oh, so. Absolutely. That would be nice. Yes.
Yeah. So artists always ask me, and I always love to ask this when I have a gallerist on the podcast. What is something that what are the types of artists that the gallery looks to work with, or how can artists kind of not fit into your programming, but what makes you notice them? Like, for example, you saw Dennis's work on Instagram. You followed him for years. You kind of followed his development. Bao's work you saw at a fair. Yeah. Right. So what's kind of the way where you approach showing these artists, or like, what are you looking for when you're showing them?
I think the first thing is like getting excited, you know, like when you see something. I remember going to an opening studios in Dumbo, you know, the residency in Dumbo. Yes. I don't remember the name of the place, but I remember like doing those studios visit, like, you know, like being at this opening studios. I was like, okay, nice. And I remember like just like stepping inside a studio and being like, this is amazing. You know, and just like first thing first, I was like, okay, this is great. What is that about now? Who is the guy? Who is the person who's doing this? Can I have a conversation with that guy? Is it possible to just like trying to just like engage for first conversation? And you were saying that earlier, like during the interview, you were asking me like, what is the best thing that I like when I'm engaging with artists? That's it. That's the way we just like talk to each other. Like if there is like a vibe kind of that match the energy, and I get the idea like pretty quickly. I'm not going to lie to you. I know for the first 5 minutes if I want to work with the person or not. And from there, yeah, I know that like, you know, I can maybe do something with them. And that's really interesting for me. The way that we are approaching artists, it's not that easy, actually. We have been trying to expand our artist roster with significant names. So that's something that takes a lot of time. The approach, you know, if like another gallery is involved, like, you know, that kind of things. But in the idea of make someone being a part of the artist roster, I would say that it has to align a little bit also with the vision, with the artistic line of the gallery. I mean, we are not like a photography gallery, for example. We are working with photographers, but their approach of photography aligns with the artistic line of the gallery. So it's just like the medium that just like differ a little bit. But when someone, and I would say like, you know, when an artist is just like sending me an email with, you know, this is my work, thank you, I'm gonna open that. Like, I'm not like being like, oh, another one, this is annoying, this is not that. No, because you never know. Actually, you never know. Maybe that person doesn't know how to introduce themselves, and, you know, trying to just like place their work like correctly in the artwork. But so I'm gonna have a look. But the fact that sometimes the proposal doesn't align at all with the vision of the gallery, and the inquiry is mostly based because we have a space in New York, in Paris, in it doesn't make sense. You know, we have to keep being in the line. I've been lucky enough, or I don't know, but I've been visiting museums since I'm a kid. I know I grew up with the gallery. We talked about that. I know the vision. I know the idea of what the gallery wants to achieve, and I know what is possible to do and what it is not. So I'm trying to also lead my research based on that. But of course, I'm also doing some studio visit for myself, you know, like being like, I love what you're doing. It doesn't align with the gallery program, but I really want to keep following you up on like any development in your creation. So that's also very interesting. But yeah. That's I would say yeah. I think every single person who step in any studio, you know from the start if you want to work with them, and if there is space for them to work with you.
Right. Yeah. So I always usually tell artists to kind of do their research, see if their work actually aligns with the gallery they want to work with, because every single gallery has an artistic vision, like you mentioned. You know, that's the through line for all the artists that they show. Don't just blindly like apply just to apply, or, you know, send in a proposal. Kind of do a little bit of research and see where you fit in.
Exactly.
Okay, so for the next part of the interview, we're going to backtrack through your past.
Let's do it.
And this is where I butcher the French language. So please bear with me. You earned a bachelor's degree in the protection and development of 20th to 21st century heritage from the University Jean Monnet Saint-Étienne, where you studied industrial heritage, restoration, and cultural valorization. You then pursued a master's in art history at the University Paul Valéry Montpellier. Thank you. Thank you for saving me. Specializing in contemporary art theory, conservation, and cultural project management. Your master's focused on obviously curating cultural policy. How did your studies in France influence your cultural philosophy and kind of your eye?
Interesting question. I think, like, you know, the last years of my studies, my master's and everything, I was lucky enough to be like in a professional study. Like, you know, you have your year is divided between, like, you know, you go to university and then you have to find like internships and being like involved with the company you're working for. And also during those years, I've been like lucky enough to being part of like university trips, like going to the Biennale or like, going to museums and trying to explore like a little bit more all the proposal and see also the vision of every director, because from one institution to another, you have like a complete different vision of like the way you're going to display an exhibition, the way you're going to approach a theme, and also the way you're working with your collections. So that was really, really enlightening in that way. And France is really, I don't know, very solid on, the aspect of exhibitions. It's rare to find some like kind of cuckoo crazy presentation, right?
Okay.
Like,
yes, fair.
Here in the US and also in the UK, because I've been doing like a lot of back and forth. So when I was in Europe, I was doing like a lot of back and forth between Luxembourg and London. I love London. I think it's beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful institutions, beautiful galleries. I mean, and you have to be curious also. I feel like our job in the art world is like, even if you don't like an artist, you have to see the show to be sure that, or not sure, like, that you don't like or you like it, or like, and sometimes there are very, very good surprises, right? But yeah, in the UK and in the US, some exhibition can be like a little bit like for a European person being like, whoa, okay, the proposal is like very, very different. And that's nice also to see that there are some alternative to like a very regular presentation. And I'm not talking only about like public institution. I'm talking about foundations. I'm talking about galleries. And I feel like galleries are taking more and more the idea of doing installations and being like very comfortable with that and getting like a little bit crazy about it. Like I've been to the Laura Owens exhibition yesterday. Beautiful. It's really immersive. Like there is a real proposition for the show. And I think that's what I really like also, to have those two point of view and being able to just like improve my vision on hanging a work, being able to display an entire exhibition. Do we have to be like very strict about like, oh, it has to be like 1 meter and a half high by the center, like, all those details that we have been instructed when I was in school, just like being like, those are the rules. You cannot like go crazy, but actually you can. Yeah, you can, and you should if it makes sense to the project you're working on. Because sometimes also you can find some, in my point of view, some exhibition where things are going like a little bit crazy, but you don't know why. Like, why that craziness at this time? Is that justified, or like, does it serve the exhibition and the artist? Or is that just like a little bit of, something you wanted to do because, you had time to do it? So I would say that would be my vision. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, backtracking a little bit to your internships, let's talk about some of your internships post-school. You held internships at galleries like François Souchon,
yes.
Aline Vidal, and museums like, I would let you say it.
Musée des Sapeurs-Pompiers Lyon-Rhône.
Thank you. Which of these experiences most shaped your career path, and why?
I think there are two. Le Musée des Sapeurs-Pompiers, I was in charge of the registration. So I worked on the collections. And that was really important for me to understand how to take care of the pieces, like to just like witness the state and being able to just like maybe provide the care necessary for the collection. So like the preservation and the conservation of artworks have been from the start very important to me, because I always had that vision that artworks from like contemporary artists, or like in that case the Muséum des Sapeurs-Pompiers, which is like the firefighters museum, completely random, but like the legacy that those objects could bring with them was really important. And that's what I wanted to defend and wanted to work on. So that was the first part. But the second one, I would say, when I was an intern with Aline Vidal, because that was during, she's an amazing woman based in Paris. And so that was like in 2011 or something like that. So that was a long time ago, right? And she was attending to the Docs Art Fair, who was like a very small art fair in Lyon, France. And she couldn't like attend the entire art fair. She couldn't stay because she had like some obligation in Paris. So she was like, I need someone to be in the booth, to engage with the people and trying to make sales. I was 22. Like, I was a baby. And I was like, okay, no problem. And she trusted me also. And she placed like, you know, like a lot in me. And I met the artist. That was the first conversation that I had with like, you know, a contemporary artist who was explaining to me what was his vision, where he wanted to go with his work. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, you know, I want to pursue that. I want to defend the interests of that artist. I want to work with him in that presentation, and I want to work in the gallery to be able to just like pursue that flow of information and also to guarantee like the best aspects of that kind of exhibitions. So yeah, that was that experience with Aline Vidal lasted for like 6 or 7 days. That was not that long, but that was very efficient in the vision that I had from the start for what I wanted to do with collectors, how I wanted to position myself, being like kind of an advisor for them, and just like being with them all along the process to make them very comfortable with the idea of making an acquisition, but also to understand who they are buying. Because I think it's also interesting to, when you are placing a piece in a private collection, like, you name the artist, you name those things, but we were talking about that also earlier. You have some anecdotes, you have some small details that can just like being like, oh, now I get it. And that's what I really liked when I worked with Aline.
Yeah, that's great. What were some foundational skills that you developed during these internships and, you know, early work experiences that you still keep till to this day?
Being in contact with people, you know, being out there. I have this. I'm shy. I'm a shy person.
Really?
Yes, I am.
would not have gathered that from this interview.
I am. Like I can maybe reflect that kind of confidence, kind of, but like I'm shy when I don't know someone. I'm a big observer. Like, you know, I like to just like observe the situation I'm in, like the people, like how they act, and I pay attention to details. And I think that's it. That's the main thing that I keep from everything. Because I remember like back in the day when I was intern at the museum, I was like observing every single thing. Like I was like, okay, so this is how it works. So, okay, so we are going to make an acquisition, but we have to go to like the big board to make sure that we're going to defend the piece that we want to enter into the collection. So I was like, oh my God, I have to pay attention to everything. Then I was like in contact with collectors, and you notice like a small thing, but because they are shy too. I think like people are very shy too. And because you're like, oh, I love your shoes, for example, like I really love your shoes. Do you know the gallery? And from there, something is just like unlocked and you can go. But yeah, you have to just like, I was like, I have to force myself. But at the end, it just came very natural in a way to just like being like, if you need some information, just like, you know, I will be happy to make that kind of conversation. And yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah. Being an observer, big observer, and just like trying to place myself out there. I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So normally before we head into the fire round of questions, I like to ask 2 questions to my guests, one of which you've already answered, which is, have you faced any challenges in the field, as a woman and especially as a woman of color?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, we talked about that. I think,
Yeah.
I think I felt like maybe a little bit alone for a while, but now like things are unlocking. So I feel like, the outward is now more getting more and more prepared to this. Yeah, I mean, I'm 36 years old. I'm like, I'm still trying to do my best to make it work, to make things works. I don't know if I had something else to add to that, to be honest.
Okay. Well, then we can go to the second question, which is, what sort of advice would you give to incoming women who want to be, directors or leaders in a gallery?
Yeah. Don't despair.
Okay. That's a good one.
That's don't despair. I mean, like it's not an easy way. It's absolutely not an easy way. The outward is not an easy way. Let's be honest. It's a niche. And it's sometimes very complicated to make your mark, to make your place. I don't think I'm pursuing making a mark. Like this is not what I want. I just want to make it work. I just want to make it work in the best way possible. I want the stress being on me, not the person I'm working with or working for. This is not like, I think for the next generation or people who wants to get involved in the outward, you have to, if you really want to, you have to stick with it. But I mean, like everybody's saying that, right? Like, singers, actors, like if you want it, you can do it. I think you need to have a lot of luck. And I've been very lucky. Because when I arrived at the gallery was young. I was like at the beginning of a project. I think you have to commit yourself. If you really want it, like you have to endure like sometimes some very, very like weird situation, like being like low paid, like you have to accept that. You have to, because at some point it's going to pay. It's going to pay off. Like you're going to have the reward. And that's important, to not like being like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that because like, it's not like paid enough or something. You have to, I think in every kind of jobs, you have to sacrifice a little bit of, unfortunately, what you really want at the start to make it work at the end. And I know that kind of sacrifice can be like very, very complicated because like we are not all, with like a big family in the back. Like I'm not, like my family, when I said to them, like, I want to be part of the outward, they were like, but what? I was like, yes. And for like, probably like the 5 years when I was working with the gallery, they didn't understand what I was doing. Like they were like, oh, like what? Like you're in Paris and then you're like in Geneva, then you're in Luxembourg, then you're in Brussels. Like we don't even know why you're there. I'm like, I'm doing an art fair. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's a very complex word when you're from the outside. Like, and even my friends, like at the beginning, they're like, oh, this is weird. Like you working for a gallery? Like you don't want to work for a museum? It's like, it's not that I don't want to work for a museum. I really want to work for a museum. But like the opportunity that I had back in the day was with a gallery. And I had to take it to just like make my way potentially in the future, being able to work for a museum.
Right.
Because all the skills you're going to accumulate all through those years will make you an asset at the end. And so you have to stick with what you really want, even if it's really, really hard to hear, very hard to live sometimes. But like, you have to be very curious also, I would say. This is, I think, a part of our job is to be curious. If you have no interest to go and see some exhibition with artists that you don't like, this job is not for you, honestly. Because like, I can say that I was at the Venice Biennale. So last year, no, 3 years ago. And I remember I was with an artist of the gallery and we went to this exhibition with this artist. I'm not going to name anyone,
It's
but like,
okay.
but like we're like, I don't want to go. Like, and you know, like this artist. I was like, well, every single day we are just like walking in front of that building. Like, come on, we can just like make a quick stop.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't like the artist. Both of us were like, this is like, let's see. But we went in there. We arrived in the exhibition room. Stunning, absolutely stunning. And they were like nothing else to say. That was beautiful. That was powerful. That was beautiful. We don't like the artist, but we have to admit that presentation was really good. I've been doing exhibition in the UK, in Paris. I've been like in the US. I've been like traveling a lot, like trying to explore all the collections, see how like people articulates everything, like, you know, what are the trends, because you have also to keep being aware of what is going on out there. And then you have to be curious, because you can be like, oh, I saw an exhibition 2 years ago and I really didn't like the show. Yes, but like 2 years happen between those two shows. Maybe there is an evolution. Maybe this new series will be like very interesting for you. You don't know. You have to be curious. You have to put you out there. I'm not like saying that, like, you know, networking every single night is like something you have to do, even if it's something you have to do. But if you are not like seen, and if you are not like putting like a little bit of effort in there, it's not going to work. So you have to respect yourself. You have to keep being yourself, because also I feel like the outward is really, you know, there are a lot of people pretending being some people they are not. And I think our society now is getting like more and more comfortable being like, those are fake people. Now we want the real people.
Yep.
So that's interesting, because 13 years ago, that was not the case. Like, I remember having like, I'm a sneaker girl, you know, because I'm doing like, I'm all around all the time. I have to be able to carry stuff. Like, even if in my position of a director, maybe I have to re-hang like a painting,
right,
and I'm not going to do that in heels.
Yeah.
Basically. So like, I remember back in the day when I was in Switzerland, I had like some heels hidden in my closet. I still do have heels at the office, because you never know who's going to show up. If you have like, you never know. So you have to be prepared. But at the same time, I'm a sneaker girl. I'm comfortable being like, okay, this is action. I can just like jump on things very, very quickly. So that's also the energy. You have to respect your energy. You have to respect the person you are in order to be probably more efficient also. Like, you know, like if you're not pretending, so that's something else. You just have to be yourself and do your work, and you are focused on doing your work. And that's, I think, what was missing for a very long time in the outward, and getting like more and more, we are getting like closer and closer to that. So that's what I like about what is going on right now. And that would be my advice for the people who wants to get involved in the outward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, you know, cultivating your taste, which is going to see things you don't like, seeing things that you do like, why do you like them? Why don't you like them? The more you see, the easier it will become for you to recognize kind of what's good art and what's bad art. So I think that's really important.
And it feeds the conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Because you have to have, you know, like, if you don't see anything, how can you just like be in a conversation with collectors, artists, or like, you know, even talking about program?
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on outside. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, I love the heel story, because I do the same thing.
Right.
Like, I have a pair of heels at work, and so many of the women that I work with do the same, or I carry like sneakers in my bag.
Exactly. At some point, it's just like killing you, right?
Yeah.
So like, you have to switch. Yep. So that's the reality.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
I feel like women have to be prepared for like everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Like, if you have to run in the subway with your heels on.
Oh, forget it.
I mean, I prefer to just like wait to the next train.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is no way that I'm trying to just like break my ankle or something. Exactly. Just to catch a train. No.
No. Same. Completely the same. Okay. Well, so now we're going to the portion with the fire round of questions.
Yes.
So I have 9 questions.
Ooh.
You can pick a number between 1 and 9. I think we have time for like 3 or 4 questions.
Okay.
So let's start with the first one. What's the first number?
2.
2. What is the most underrated skill in gallery management?
Being yourself.
Okay. Okay, another number.
Let's say 3.
3. What has been your favorite exhibition you've ever visited?
Say that again.
What has been your favorite exhibition you've ever visited?
Ooh, museum, like institutions and galleries.
Anything.
Well, like in 2010, I was in Paris for Jean-Michel Basquiat and Larry Clark exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in Paris. Beautiful. I have this very fresh memory about it. But I've been doing like very stunning exhibition. I mean, like Modigliani at the Tate was like, that was absolutely stunning. I've been doing this exhibition in at the Zeitz Museum also in South Africa. I don't remember the name of that artist, but I was amazed. That was like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, really good. Yeah.
Okay. Another number.
7.
7. Who is an emerging artist you think everyone should know about?
Good question. Well, I've been working with this South African artist, and because of the trend also nowadays, but not only about, like, not just about that, she's amazing. Her name is Stefanie Edith Conradi. She was born Namibian, and she's based now in Cape Town, South Africa. She will have an exhibition with us actually in Paris in May. She's doing the residency that we have at La Chaume in France, and she's an amazing sculptor. Artist. She accumulates objects and create those little sculptures, or big, but mostly small sculptures about like creolization and the idea of the appropriation. So she finds all those objects from, like, you know, in Cape Town, for example, or Stellenbosch in South Africa, where you had those residency where workers were staying during the apartheid, and they had to leave like pretty quickly. And so she just like she went to those sites, and she just like picked up those, you know, objects that just like remain on the floor. And from there, she was starting to work on those pieces, on those accumulations of objects like this, which witness, like, you know, it's a testimony of the past, but also like the reconfiguration of the present. And I really love her work, and she's an amazing person. So yeah.
Also, I have to look her up because I'm not familiar with her.
You know, like first when I saw her work the first time, I was like, this is great. Like, but I was kind of, you know, like a little bit disturbed by the fact that I was attracted to that kind of piece. But I loved it, and I love every single piece that she has done so far. So, and she's great. She's in her 30s. Beautiful
Awesome.
work.
Yeah, I'll definitely look it up. Okay, one more. Pick a number.
So we said, did I say 9? No,
not yet. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Going home and cuddling my cat.
Oh, okay.
This is like, I love going home and just like being able to have my cat just like, you know, cuddling and yeah.
What's their name?
Josephine.
Josephine. Oh, that's so cute.
Yes, she's a little black cat. Super cute. Super cute.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Pets make the day better for everybody. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. To everyone listening, go check out the exhibitions that are opening on April 10th, which is Bao, and then May 10th? 22nd, I'm sorry, with Dennis.
Yes, absolutely.
In New York at Ceysson and
Bénétière.
Thank you. It sounds so much better when you say it. But thank you again. And
thank you.
And yeah, everybody go check out those shows. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.